KSMO Radio. It's time for us to sit down and talk with Mr. Daryl Skiles from the South Central Regional Stockyards. Daryl has a special guest with him today, Dave Ingram. Good to have Dave back. It's been a while if we've seen you here.
It has.
It's good to have you here. Anyway, another great day in Denton County. So, Daryl, thank you for coming in, making the trip in. And
Yes, sir, Stan.
you said it's been a pretty busy week.
Busy. It's summer has arrived.
Oh, that it has.
Summer has arrived, and it's warm. It's been fairly dry. We've been kind of lucky in Denton County, though. We've gotten some rain.
You've
Yeah.
been very lucky.
Yeah.
I went by your road the other day, and there was quite a bit coming across the little footbridge there.
the little
below
creek
your
got
house.
up. The little creek got up.
Yeah.
Well, west of me, I got 1.1 inches, but west of me, they got just west of me where that creek heads up. They got about 3.5 inches. I heard. So
wow.
parts of the county, and then on over towards Lickey, and they got a couple of 3 inches and stuff. So we're lucky, but I'll tell you, north of us now and on
Yeah,
up northern
struggling.
towards Rolla and on up in Marys County, they're very dry, and up around the
Up around
stockyards,
Hannibal,
towards
it's just brittle.
Jeff City, yeah, and on up northeast, it's just pretty dry. But anyway, it's good to be here. It's and the stockyards has been having some good sales. We had a very good sale this week, large sale. This previous week, back a week ago Wednesday, we had about 2,900 head. Had a few less cattle this week, a lot less feeders, but boy, the cows are showing up. But we had some awfully good cows this week at the stockyards, some good replacement cows, and there's some folks up there in those counties north of us that are having to sell some cows that they wouldn't ordinarily be
I was
selling
just going to
because
ask that.
of
Are you seeing some of that
because-
stress
oh
selling?
yeah, oh yeah. You know, we'd normally have 100, 150, 175 cows sale. Of course, this time of year, you know, people have sold their fall calves, and they'll be selling, then culling, you know, the open cows and some things. So we always have a few more extra, but there's a lot of they call them the factory, the foundation cows showing up right now across the country and across our trade territory. But it's a good week, and you know, the feeder cattle market, you know, the futures on feeder cattle here over the last month or so have lost, maybe $10 a hundred or so, which kind of took some of the bloom off. But, you know, the futures thing, it kind of is a deal. There's a lot of stuff drives the futures, kind of like stock market. It kind of operates on its own deal. Futures kind of drives the cash market, but not altogether, and the cash market sometimes kind of drives the futures market, so it all plays in together. And of course with the futures too, you know, you got the traders are on that, and there's computer algorithms come into play that trigger a bunch of sales when prices reach certain levels for profit and so on. So that's almost an artificial deal in some ways, but you still have to see what's going on there, and it kind of follows a trend, and the trend is a little bit, we may have seen probably maybe some of the high prices for this spring and summer, but prices are still awfully good, and we'll get into some of those here a little bit more detail later. But still, you know, we're still looking at some unweaned calves bringing in 220, 250, or 220, 240 a pound. You're still talking $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 a head for calves, weaned calves or unweaned calves right off the cow. Now, if the calves fall under what we call value added, got some of health program behind them, been weaned, you can add 10 to 20, 25, 30 cents a pound onto some of those. There's some of your buyers that are paying the biggest dollars aren't even interested in bidding. Doesn't matter how good the animal is, they're not even interested in bidding on some of these unweaned, unvaccinated cattle, and that's just becoming more prevalent as we go along through the deal. But
You see that as a trend that's going to be.
It's been a building trend over the years, you know. I mean, anything you can do to add value to your calves and so that they will perform the best and live up to their genetics. And, you know, more and more, we've got more and more better genetics in our cattle across the country. And so when somebody's going to buy them and take them, if they are in the best shape possible to really live up to the potential of that good genetics, that's just more money that person has an opportunity to make down the road. So we're seeing that, and we try to emphasize that when we have that. We've been calling that some of our QHG sales, quality, health, and genetics, and it all goes together into what an animal's worth. And especially now when you get into some of these higher prices, and you know, somebody may feel like they're really selling cattle and getting along very well. But if they just do a few more of those finer things, for one thing, even just cutting those bull calves, you can add easily 20, 30, 40 cents a pound onto the value of some calves just by getting a sharp knife or having a vet or somebody come out and help you and get those bull calves castrated and get your calves dehorned if they've got horns. And some of those little things will pay premiums and pay dividends for you on your cattle. But had some good sales, and we had this week, though, as I said, we had some cows showing up on a few deals that ordinarily wouldn't be there if it hadn't so dry. We had one outstanding set of heifers. We call them locally here. We claim the folks, the Lennox Ranch out at Lake Spring, Missouri. Been in business for a long time. Ken Lennox, and now his daughter Angie is kind of running things there, and they've got great genetics. She bred about 80 or 90 heifers last year back in the winter, knowing she wasn't really going to need to calve that many, so she went ahead and got them all preg checked and all bred to just really super high quality, mostly meat Angus bulls that are good low birth weight, easy calving, but good growth and good maternal traits in them as well. And so we had 23 of those that all sold second stage. It'll start calving here probably somewhere around middle of September or something like that. And just an outstanding set of heifers, really. And they brought $1,850 a head. So, and they actually came back here to Dent County. So that was kind of neat. Yeah. They went up 72, headed up to the sale, and they went driving right back past the driveway, headed back down here. So the Lennoxes were kind of tickled about that. They kind of came back home, and the folks there's a little more grass here this way than there is.
That's
as
true.
There is, in that northern area. So at any rate, we'll get into some more specifics on some of these prices and things, but again, the market's pretty good there at South Central right now, and across the country it's a good time to be in the cattle business. And even with the dry weather, it'll change one of these days. And I've been busy hauling some hay in myself. I'm glad to be able to get it and get some hay stored up. Luckily I had enough. I probably didn't need to buy any, and I could still gotten through. I get a little uncomfortable if I don't have 2 years supply of hay sitting on hand to get through these kind of times like this.
I know a guy like that.
Yeah, I bet. Dave Ingram, I bet his father, John Ingram. A lot of folks know John too, and good cattleman in his own right. I can tell you that for sure. And
he sure is.
And a good planner, and probably plans ahead and likes to have a supply.
Yep.
Known John for a long time. And Dave, you're not native in Dent County. And Dave Ingram is with Missouri Department of conservation agent. Been here in Dent County how many years, Dave?
24.
24, is that right? So, he's not native here in Dent County, but he's not native in Dent County here, but we almost claim him, and his boys are just about native here, aren't they?
Yeah,
they are native.
Yeah, they are native.
Yeah, you don't have any. Your oldest one is what, in college?
Yeah, he's at Missouri S&T, mechanical engineering student, and Caleb just graduated from high school. He's going to go to West Plains, MSU campus down there.
Good.
Yeah.
Use that A+, some of that A+.
Money.
That's where we're very lucky to have that. We have both the Southwest Baptist University thing here that a lot of folks, my daughters, have availed themselves to, and then to have the MSU campus there at West Plains. We're very lucky. And then, of course, UMR right here close. Pretty lucky right here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're pretty blessed to have the facilities that we do have, and I think it's a smart move to go get your A+ money in first 2 years.
That's right.
Get those requirements out of the way.
Sure.
And do it for free. That's the best way.
Yeah. and then those couple of years, maybe figure out a little more closely what it is you sure want to pursue from that. So anyway, but Dave Ingram's here, been conservation agent here in Dent County for many years, and pretty well known, and he and I were visiting about some different things, and some things I thought it might be of interest to folks out here on the farms and out here in the country. So, Dave, I'll just let you go. What's going on, and what some things we talked a little bit about. Sometimes people that raise crops, alfalfa, corn, beans, and things have a few more critters chewing on their crops and things.
Yeah,
and there's some programs there.
Yeah, especially when you get a little dry. We're always fighting the drought when it comes to this time of year. Somewhere we are,
Yeah.
But it's the typical. For us, it's calls of people finding fawns, or I had a call last night of deer in a garden, and I've got to go deal with that today.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's pretty common.
Yeah.
It's something we deal with either by giving out a depredation permit. I'll usually start out by allowing someone, let's say, for example, Leroy Kinder years ago when he was alive.
Yeah.
Over around
Yeah.
your way, west
Yes,
of you,
neighbor.
he had some strawberries, and
Yeah.
they love strawberries,
Oh, man.
especially when they start greening up and really, starting to grow and in the springtime. And issued him a permit to kill 5 deer. It's kind of funny because, as mad as people are at them, sometimes they still don't. They're still reluctant to kill them when it
Right.
comes down to it. I remember
Yeah.
Leroy. I issued a permit for 5, and he ended up killing 2. And his wife got mad at him, and he said, "Son." I mean, you remember him. He'd say, "Son,
Yeah. Yep.
no need to issue me any more permits." He said, "Wife got so mad at me that he said they can just eat as many strawberries as they want."
That's funny.
So-
I can just hear him, and I can
Yeah.
imagine his wife Susie get.
But they, kind of like, you got to take some measures, to either buy electric fence or some type of fence to keep them out of your garden. Or you're going to have some problems, especially, like this place last night. They are right up next to the woods, and
Right.
They had okra,
Yep.
and they love okra, and they'd actually even eaten some of his potato vines and tomato plants,
Yeah.
which is unusual, but
I've been known to tie our dog out by the garden.
it
for,
works. It's very
sometimes
effective.
for a week or for a few
Yeah.
days and stuff. My wife can get kind of aggravated.
Yeah,
at the critters.
raccoons on the corn patch can be
Oh, my
devastating.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and deer and beans, green
ma-
beans. Oh my goodness!
Yep. Yep.
One night, they can just mow through them.
Obliterate a
Yeah,
couple or 3 rows of beans in no time.
yeah. So this for us, this is the time of year from mid-spring till late summer. We get what we call nuisance wildlife calls, raccoons. When it gets dry, we get a few armadillo calls.
Yeah.
Where you're watering your
Yeah.
flowers and stuff. They love to flip up that mulch because it's got insects underneath it because
Sure.
it's the wettest place
Right.
around. It's
Draws the
retaining
insects and
moisture. And,
Also a lot easier digging.
oh yeah, yeah, they're lazy. Well,
They are lazy.
they can be.
Yeah.
Go to the easiest.
And we've got way more armadillos now than we used to have, don't we? When I was a kid, I never seen an armadillo or a badger when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And now we have a few badgers. And,
Yeah, I've had probably my career. Tim Cahill trapped one when I first came here.
I think he trapped that out in my neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I got a report, seemed credible at the time. A guy saw one when he was bow hunting an Indian trail.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah.
That was a surprise to
And
me.
then a guy, his last name was Logan Black was his name. He lived
Out
over
of the
around
mix.
Edgar Springs, and he shot one with a rooster in its mouth, took his chicken.
Yeah.
He blasted
Yeah.
it. Didn't know what it was at the time. He just knew it was getting his
If
chicken.
I'm not mistaken, I think Logan used to work in the fire tower.
He did.
Years ago.
Yeah.
Analytics for the conservation department.
Yep,
in the
that's right.
Fire season. Yeah. 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 We had a mama badger and a youngin under a shed at my house.
No kidding.
A few years ago,
that's-
and he's retired now. But I called Dave Nichols that morning
Yeah.
to confirm what I thought it was. It was a badger, and visited with him. I asked him if he wanted to come and get it, and he gave me a firm no. And advised me not to try to grab it or do anything.
Yeah.
That they could flat eat you up.
Yeah.
They're pretty. They're about the closest thing to a wolverine that Missouri could have. I
They
believe.
are. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they can really move, kind of very articulate and
Oh man.
a lot of dexterity where they can turn and grab a dog or a coyote or something that's trying to attack them. And
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, the teeth between their teeth and
oh
their
yeah,
claws.
they've got a good.
And,
Actually, the one I keep a skull collection to show kids at schools or
Uh-huh.
whatever 4-H, and I wanted the skull that Tim said he trapped one. He said go down to my carcass pile and where I. After he skins out an animal, he just discards the carcass. And he said, "I've got a badger, badger down there." Well, he'd shot it in the head, so the skull was all
yeah.
trashed. But I really wanted that badger
Yeah.
to show the kids because it's a neat looking skull
Yeah. Oh yeah.
with the
Yeah.
teeth and
Pretty impressive.
yeah,
Yeah. But there's and farmers raising corn, alfalfa, soybeans.
oh soybeans,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deer are just I mean, the word spreads evidently like wildfire
Yeah.
somehow or another amongst the deer herd. All
It
there
does.
can for miles around, it seems like.
Yeah, years ago it was 2001, and you know where the Bookers live, just
Lake
south and east of Lennox's, the Lennox folks that you were talking about.
Yep.
There were around 180 deer
Wow.
that were coming to their alfalfa, them and the Selbergs, their neighbors across the road.
Yep.
And that was about an hour before sunset. Mm-hmm. You could count that many in their combined 2 or 3 alfalfa fields.
I've
that they
counted
had.
several down there myself.
Yeah.
We used to put hay up down there on the Selbergs and the below Bookers.
Well,
on Dry Fork at Dry
Right.
Fork Valley. Yeah.
That late summer, there was an outbreak of EHD, which is epizootic hemorrhagic disease, which is commonly known as the slang blue tongue.
Yeah.
There was an outbreak there, and it just went through that herd and killed out a bunch.
Wow.
Yeah, you were lucky for the next few years to count 15 or 20
A lot of
In that
times
area.
you'd find those deer wanting a lot of times close proximity to a watering.
to water source,
Place,
or
yeah.
in or around real close to water.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, which, nature's way of thinning out the herd, because it was overpopulated.
right.
No
yeah.
doubt.
Yeah, there weren't too many tears shed for the
No,
down
no,
in
there
that
really
area
weren't.
for the,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
the, for the deer.
Except for the big, it typically will hit bigger bucks because
Yeah.
their antlers in velvet, when it hits, it's spread by a little fly. It's called a midge fly. And the reason it happens during a drought is when the water recedes from, say, a pond or the river, you're left with a lot of mud. And that fly incubates its life cycle in that mud bank.
I'll be.
So the more mud you have relatively when that water goes down, and then you have more animals congregating at a water source,
Right.
less water sources because some have dried up.
Sure.
They
Creates the
get
perfect
bit.
storm.
Well, the one that gets bit is the bigger buck with the vascular
Right.
velvet antlers,
Right.
and those, it's like a mosquito. They just go to that blood source and start feeding, and therefore infecting those bigger
Huh.
deer. So yeah,
So that's why it's always so much worse in a dry year. I'd never heard that explanation why that was. Huh.
yeah, it's actually I've heard of in like Iowa, Illinois, places where they maybe manage 4 deer, particularly big bucks. It's pretty big money as far as leases and different hunting opportunities go. They'll actually spray fields to try to, in a droughty year when they know they're going to have possibly a EHD outbreak, and they're able to kill some of those midge flies,
Huh.
and it's effective. Those deer learn, from what I've heard, just anecdotally, people talking about they know where they've sprayed, and
Is
those
that-
deer will bed and congregate in those places.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Because of less
less-
numbers of the
less
midge flies
midge fly,
bothering
yep.
them. Makes sense. Interesting.
That's why you listen to this program. You learn something
That's right.
new every
That's why I like to have people like Dave and folks come in. I've had university folks and the experts come in and explain all this stuff
Yeah.
to us. Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting.
We have a little bit of EHD every year. In fact, I just put down a deer yesterday that was at a pond. I don't know that it was EHD quite yet. It's pretty early, but I can't quite eliminate it because it didn't have the typical road rash. It was pretty close to 72 highway, but back off a little bit from the road, maybe say quarter mile. But a lot of times you'll get a deer that's just bumped by a car, internally injured, and typically if it's like a gut wound, they'll go to water. And this one could have been that, but I didn't notice any road rash on its legs.
Right.
So I was a little bit suspect of EHD. So it's early, but it could be a year for it with our high deer numbers.
Right.
I
Getting
guarantee
drier.
you somewhere in the state, it sounds like there's going to be an outbreak of.
Yeah, the conditions still
Of
look
it.
ripe.
Yep.
Especially
It
north
is
of us
ripe.
so far.
It is ripe really
Yeah.
early on.
But I mean, we can be in a pretty desperate dry state here pretty quick, especially the northern part of our area
Yeah.
here. But anyway, People always say we're just about 3 days from between flood and drought.
Yeah.
Here in these hills, and that's about the truth.
It is.
Especially if these temperatures get on up here now in the 90s and start breaking 100 stuff for a few days, and the wind blows, and it'll dry out and get pretty serious pretty fast. But it's already that way north of us, as we talked about.
The only good thing about that, though, that high humidity, you will get those diurnal showers. They'll come up, drop a lot of water, then they go away.
Yeah.
But it will not be a consistent. We need a good, slow, consistent rain of a good 1.5 to 2 inches for about 5 straight days with a little gap in between. Because it's starting to get really dry.
With the hurricane season starting, that's where your chances of running good of a hurricane hitting the right area and creating a front.
This way.
That'd be a while, but who knows? Anyway, so anything else going on? What's happening? We talked a little bit about the black vulture, which I think is a little unfair. They need to specify that the concern is the black-headed vulture, because not every vulture I ever seen was black. And the poor ugly turkey vulture is getting kind of a bad rap out of this deal, seems to me. But anyway, this deal with the black vulture is kind of an interesting deal.
It is. We talked about it a few days ago. I think it's a little bit blown out of proportion. What we're talking about is the black vulture can be a little more aggressive,
particularly the black-headed vulture.
Yes, turkey vulture is what I call the other one, the red-headed. The one with the red head.
Now these black-headed vultures, they're a little bit smaller now.
They're a little smaller. Their tail feathers, their tail feather is shorter. Their tail. And then when you see them spread out to fly, they're pretty much just going straight out from the body, perpendicular to their body, whereas the turkey vulture has kind of a V shape, a V-shaped swoop back flight pattern. And then the turkey vulture soars a lot, where it's just not flapping its wings.
Right, they're just up there circling and gliding around.
Right. The turkey vulture has a really, really good sense of smell. They can detect decomposing carrion or decomposing flesh up to a mile away.
Even where they can't even see it.
They can't even see it. It can be completely under forest canopy, and they can still detect it. Yeah. And you'll see them soaring, and what they're doing is searching for those thermals, or the hot and cold air, different intervals of the way the hot air rises, of course, and cold air sinks. And they, of course, you can smell that. Especially this time of year, you can smell the flowers. As you're going down the road, maybe have the windows down, you'll smell the honeysuckle or whatever, and you're picking up those thermals because you don't smell it constantly. You just get a whiff of it every now and then. Well, the black-headed vulture can't smell.
I didn't know
So
that
you'll see them above. They use the turkey vulture. You'll see them flying above them, and they're watching them and they're trying to key off of where they're going.
They're spying on them.
Right. Yeah, and they're going to where their food source has been detected by their sense of smell. Yeah, so
they're almost as bad as cowbirds, only not quite. Cowbirds.
Yeah, it's what they call like symbiotic relationship, where the one uses the other.
I say cowbirds because those who don't know, a cowbird will lay their eggs in the nest of other birds, and other birds hatch their youngins out and raise pretty slick deal.
Someone else does all the work. They get to enjoy the benefits of it.
There's folks in society seem to be that way, but that's a story for another day. Anyway. Anyway. But these black-headed vultures, they have gotten a reputation for being a little aggressive.
Right.
Sometimes.
Of course, we are right on the edge of their range. Now we're right in the turkey vulture's range, way up north above us. But if you look at a map of the range of the black-headed vulture, we're right on the edge of it. And it's kind of like the armadillo, it just kind of keeps on creeping to the north. Didn't grow up around here. I'm from Southwest Missouri. South of Joplin, I saw my first armadillo in 1986.
Really?
Yeah.
That recent?
Yep. And then right after that, there was just an explosion. Our dogs were there at our farm. We're starting to bring them up, and they were got pretty good at killing them, and there just got to be more and more of them. And that's kind of the way the seems like these vultures are. They're just kind of moving up north into a range that they've not historically been in that much.
They had gotten a reputation, and I haven't. We talked about this. You haven't, and I've never heard of any instances of any of this happening. But they have gotten a reputation in some areas of the state of actually circling around and landing where, especially heifers, seems like heifers having calves aren't. They don't know what's going on. And they're
Right.
just kind of funny and
Yeah.
safe.
Not
Has
as
been
experienced,
instances
yeah.
maybe of sounded of some vultures landing and actually killing or injuring calves as they were being born, and some things kind of like that. That's really kind of gotten the ire of cattlemen,
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah.
And so, working through through Department of Agriculture, there's a program where if you're having some problems, you can. The vultures, all the vultures are actually a federally protected
Right. They're
species
protected.
because of a treaty.
From years ago, 1918 Migratory Bird Treaty
Something.
Act.
So
Yeah.
folks probably don't realize that, but they are federally
Yeah,
protected.
they're federally protected, but there are ways, if you do have problems with them, there's two aspects of that. There are some ways to deal with them without killing them.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually buy what's called an effigy. Effigy is just a dummy, so to speak, that looks like a vulture, and you hang it upside down.
Looks like a dead vulture.
Yeah, it
hanging
looks
there.
like a dead vulture hanging upside down. You can, in fact, I looked on Amazon and you can get them. They're kind of expensive.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they were about $75 to $100. I thought
Oh, my
that's really
gosh.
that's really a scam. When I think you could take some cardboard and a trash sack or something, and
I would think so.
you could probably fool one pretty easily.
I would imagine.
Because I guess I personally never used one, but I've heard of our wildlife damage biologists using them, and they are very effective.
Is that right? In repelling,
Yeah,
making them
it
think
does
no, they
repel
don't want to hang around here.
Yeah, of course, I guess, yeah. If you see something of your own kind hanging upside down, dead in the field somewhere, it's gonna.
They may
it's
have.
gonna
They
get you
may have
thinking.
somehow. I'm not really making a suggestion, but they may have correlated that with loud noises they've heard and seen vultures fall and
Yeah.
hang dead. So therefore,
Right.
they've learned pretty
Yeah,
fast
exactly.
to avoid the dead-looking vultures
Yeah.
and move on.
And then
Yeah.
it's perfectly legal to harass them, with noises.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a roost site, on your place, you can go right at the time, right about sunset when they're going to roost, or a little bit before.
Yep.
Pester them, try to get them to move on, disperse, and
They typically are more south of us. Evidently, there's a good number southeast of us, down in Butler County and down in some of those counties. That sound right?
yeah, it's kind of funny because I've always noticed a few of them at Montauk.
Yeah,
And over the
heard that.
years, we've had more. And there, I can take you right to a roost. It's just down where the catch and release area is, above that little lake pond that we call the catch and release area. And there's a black vulture roost right there.
Of course, down there, like at Montauk, with the number of fish that get caught and cleaned and
Yeah.
things, there's a good bit of
Yeah.
food that they can spot and buy. They
Right.
They know where it's at.
Well, as many fish as we raise, every day the hatchery
Yep.
workers go through and clean out what they call the morts, the dead fish,
Mm-hmm.
because you're just going to, when you have thousands of fish, that you're raising, you're going to have
Yep.
some die every day.
It's a virtual smorgasbord.
And
down
they
there.
know where they throw them. Yeah, the
yeah.
eagles and the
Right.
buzzards know where
They
vultures
probably know
where
the time they throw them out there too.
They do. Yeah.
Eagles, buzzards, maybe a few otters and minks dying
Yeah,
pretty well.
they tend to go for the live fish.
Yeah, I know.
But the dead fish, between the eagles and the vultures, they clean them up.
Yeah. Eagles eat more carrion than what most people would really think
They
and realize.
almost
don't they?
exclusively eat carrion.
A few years ago, I know somebody was having trouble with possums getting into their feed and different stuff, and so a lot of possums were biting the dust.
Yeah.
They'd toss them out on the hillside, and about every morning there was an eagle over there in the tree waiting for the next
Right.
next dead possum delivery. It was
Yeah.
kind of funny.
They do get, well, growing up in southwest Missouri when we had all the turkey houses and chicken houses and poultry
Yeah.
industry,
Yep.
you'd see those eagles gathered around those chicken houses because they used to have a little bit more liberal regulations on throwing out their carcasses. They would put them in a compost pile or haul them off, and I think now they're a little more restrictive on that, but those eagles were gathered. Well, we just a little story. It was a holiday, Thanksgiving or Christmas. It was a really nice day, and we went over to around a place called Newtonia, and there's an old Civil War cemetery. But from the cemetery, you can see several turkey and chicken houses. We counted over 30 eagles perched around that cemetery. Of course, there's nice big cedars.
Oh,
You know,
yeah,
you know
sure,
how old cemeteries are, how big the
Right.
trees are. and made for a nice perch for all those eagles. But
Oh, man.
they were there for a reason.
Uh-huh.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
They were
Yeah.
hoping for
Scoping out the
a
next
dead
meal.
chicken or turkey. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've counted as many as 18. We do a survey each year for eagles around January, and
Right.
we know a good place to count them is at Montauk. And there was one year I counted 18
Wow.
eagles, and it was right around their pile where they throw the morts. So
18 down around Montauk.
it was actually in the park.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't
Between
realize there was
the-
that many down there.
Yep.
I've never really been down there much in the winter at the time.
There
when
was
you could
one
see 'em
nest I
better.
remember down there in the park that you could see
Right.
pretty easy from the road
Yeah.
in the wintertime.
Yeah, they actually raised some young. There turned out to be 2 nests at one time.
Yeah.
And we've had different. There's one just south of town, an eagle's nest.
Yeah, used to be one in the Blackwell Cemetery out
Yeah,
north
in
of
that
town.
tree.
And, actually, my father-in-law's grave is directly under that tree
Yeah.
where that old tree was.
That was a
big
champion
pine tree.
shortleaf pine tree.
I
It
know.
was the biggest
Such
in
a-
the
It
state.
was such a shame.
And it died, yeah.
Had to go down. Yeah, yeah. Anyway,
But the as far as legally being able to get a permit to kill one of the black vultures, you actually go through the Farm Bureau.
Mm-hmm.
The Farm Bureau has been very
taking the lead on this.
taking the lead on it, and you can get as many as 5 permits per year. Unless, I'm sure, if the problem's very severe, it can be increased more than that. But and then there's actually reimbursement if a farmer by chance has a calf or something that gets supposedly killed by a vulture, and they suspect that might have done it, they can get reimbursed. If it turns out that was the case, that the veterinarian rules in favor that it was caused by a black vulture, they can get their money reimbursed.
Really?
And that's through the Department of Agriculture.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
Interesting. We've been hearing about it.
Right.
An ad on the radio about every morning about the black vulture.
yeah, the campaign is strong. But the problem, like you and I have said, I've had a lot of questions about it, but I actually haven't had anybody tell me that it's happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a strong statewide campaign by the Department of Conservation right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've kind of left us out of the process of getting the permit, which is fine. That's great.
Don't begrudge it at all.
But we have helped in trying to spread the word that
Right.
there are opportunities available if you do have problems to get it legally done. So
Well, most people would turn to you anyway simply because it's
Yeah.
an animal
A
in
lot
their
of times,
area, and they're
yeah.
going to call you anyway.
we're the first contact
Yeah.
for people when it comes to wildlife damage. And I'm usually, I'm not, I operate in the protection branch of the Department of Conservation, but wildlife shouldn't cost people money.
No.
Is my feelings. And typically throughout the department, if you have problems with deer in your garden or your alfalfa field, we have measures to take care of that. And we're
So
I'm not hesitant to do it as long as there is a legitimate
So what's
problem.
the numbers they should call if they are having, say, just an outrageous number of deer in their beans or their cornfield or their garden? And I mean, because we have some at our farmers market here, you can see we have some people
Yeah.
here that do an outstanding job of raising.
That's their livelihood.
Yes,
True.
right,
Yeah, it is.
for a living and stuff, and so it's a serious matter for them. What's a number that somebody should call?
They can call, if it's in Dent County, they can call Jason Midget or myself. We're both the agents for Dent County. And my number's 573-308-6174. And Jason's is 6173.
Yep.
308-6174 or 6173. And if you're in another county, just call your county agent, and we can help you. Or if the problem's severe, we also have wildlife damage biologists who can help you. And they're a little bit more knowledgeable sometimes on specific things like the vultures, or if it comes down to a bear, we don't always have the traps for trapping a bear that's a nuisance. Have had several reports of bears, more this year.
Yeah.
It just keeps on increasing a little bit. But back to the deer damage, we do expect people to do something, as far as, a fence, a dog, electric fence works pretty good.
They don't have to get bit by electric fence much, so they don't even.
Yeah, and a really
get
good
around.
trick I'll throw out there, if you, it sounds kind of mean, but it's very effective, and it's non-lethal. If you'll take your electric fence, take a piece of aluminum foil, maybe double it up, put it on that electric fence, put some peanut butter on that on that aluminum foil.
Give it some
The
smell
first,
and attract
yeah,
it.
deer love peanut butter,
Huh.
and they're going to lick that.
Oh, man.
And if
When
you can
they
imagine
do.
getting shocked through your tongue,
Oh, my gosh.
you're going to remember it. So it's very effective, because they can get to where they'll, just like a sheep or a goat or a cow, they'll get wise to that fence, and they'll know, it doesn't hurt too bad.
I'm thinking if
sometimes.
it wasn't too high, that would probably really do a number on raccoons as well.
Yeah.
Because I'll guarantee they'd be attracted to that.
It works.
Peanut butter as well.
Yeah, it works
You can't
well with
imagine how
raccoons.
fast a raccoon
Yeah,
can take
or
off.
rabbits even. Rabbits can be a pest
gosh, yes.
sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got a buddy. He's got several strands of electric fence. He put a camera on his garden. He knows it's a rabbit. Well, the rabbit jumps the fence. It's figured out. It looks like a pole vaulter.
Is that right?
Or a high jumper going over his fence. He's got some pictures of it on his wildlife camera.
Yeah.
He's frustrated because the
rabbit.
rabbits outsmarted him.
Yep. Sounds like the war sometimes people have with squirrels.
Oh,
trying to keep
yeah.
them out of their bird feeder
Yep.
and the things
We'll
that
have to make a higher
they'll do.
fence.
Yeah, he keeps building it up. Rabbit keeps either going under it or over it.
That's funny. One cagey rabbit there.
Yeah.
It gets to be a battle of minds. Oh, funny.
Sometimes you just got to give credit where credit's due. If that rabbit's outsmarting him,
Yeah. Yeah.
more power to the rabbit. Of course, it doesn't help out the situation.
Yeah. Have you had any bears any reports of bears out your way, Daryl?
Haven't for some time. The last time was a few years ago. A neighbor just a little ways east of us there had a picture of one getting in their bird feeder. You probably remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
She had a video of
yes.
it that she
And
took. That
and
was really neat.
The funny part about that was back about a week or two before that, we had a couple or three bird feeders in our front yard hanging off of a cedar tree. You know my place. And my wife kept some soot feeders on the side of the cedar tree. And one morning she come in and was mad. Something had tore the bird feeder down, and the soot feeder was gone. The dang raccoon. So
Yep.
I rehung the bird feeder and set it up a little bit differently and stuff. And next thing you know, she comes in mad. Now they got it back down again, and I couldn't figure out how did that raccoon manage to, I think he must have gone out on the limb, went down the wire, and then hung on it and tore the bird feeder up again.
Right.
This is a couple of days later, and again the soot feeder was gone off the side of the tree. This is really crazy. All right, fine. We're not putting it back up, and I put a live trap out there, and I put some soot, a cake of the soot in the live trap. And we noticed a couple of times the dog's just raising Cain there tonight, but periodically, they do that, and didn't pay much attention and stuff. So the next day, the next day after I put that live trap out there, and it's it's one of them where the door flops up, then it flops down, and the next day, during the night the dogs are raising Cain and stuff, but I didn't worry about it. I thought if there's a raccoon in it, I'll get him in the morning. Well, it was weird. I go out there. Well, my live trap I put it right there by the cedar trees in my yard, and the live trap was out by the gravel road, and nothing in it.
Yeah.
And what in the heck? Something tripped it, and it's out by the road. It really made no sense. I brought it back. Finally, a couple of days later, we put the bird feeders back up and the soot trap back up, and I never had any more problem. And it was about a week or 2 weeks later, we seen this deal with a lady not far from us, got a picture of the bear getting in the deal.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, my theory is the bear reached in the live trap to try to get that soot out of there, and the door came down on its paw, and it ended up not getting the life trap
I'd
off of
say
it.
that's what happened.
Until it got out by the road, and it did not want to mess with that anymore. And the dog's out there giving it fits, and it had a big old life trap on its paw, and the dog nipping at its heels. And so I think I ran my bear off. That's my theory on what happened,
I'd
because
say so.
actually I put my feeders back up and the soot deals back up, and we didn't have another visitor come and bother the soot feeder. And I know them raccoons, but that just really baffled me for a while about the live trap being all the way out there,
Well,
almost in the road.
I had a report in Rayoke Estates. You know, they're off of
Yeah.
72
Yeah.
north of town, northwest of town. And it had just destroyed sunflower. She had sunflowers in this bird feeder. It
Yep.
absolutely destroyed it. She saw it. Actually stood up on its back legs, and it's a pretty good sized bear from what the neighbors. She wasn't the only one that saw it. Well, at the same time, Dave and Sandy Nichols were gone. They live kind of between me and the Rayoke Estates, and I'd went over there to take care of their bird feeder, and they had a rebar hanger, you know, pole that
Right.
it was bent and on the ground. And I'm like, what in the world?
Something
Because this
pretty
was
good
right
size.
before I'd got the call of the bird feeder at Rayoke Estates being destroyed, and
Kind of
I'm
answered that.
sure it was the same bear, but because I'm like, what?
Oh,
What
well.
kind of pack of coons did this? You know,
Right. Wait.
Yeah.
Don't think
Or
it
is the
was
neighbor?
coons.
Yeah. Is Dave messing with
That
him?
rebar thing was drove in the ground and had kind of a hook on it, and the bird feeder hung on it.
Yeah. Oh, it was bent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bent.
They
It was
bent
stuck in the ground pretty good, so they just tried to bend it. You know, they reached up
Yeah.
and the one at your neighbor's house that it's funny. She's inside her house, and she has her dogs inside, and they're kind of trembly. She's videoing them, and there's background music playing, kind of nice and softly. It's like classical
Yeah.
music. It's like a professional video, and she's
that's pretty
narrating that her husband's gone, and I think he was gone on a mission trip or something.
Uh-huh.
And she said, "I've called the sheriff and the conservation agent, and they should be here." And the bear's just out there taking his hand and just scooping up birds, black oil sunflowers, and just eating them like it's ice cream. And she's narrating the video. It's pretty good. I've still got that around somewhere.
But yeah, I've seen I didn't see the video, but I did see the still pictures of that. And I
Yeah.
think it was just about 2 weeks after I'd put our feeders back up and had that little session of something right in the deal. And I thought, I just was always convinced that it was a good chance the same
I would
bear,
say
or
so.
a bear at least, that
Yeah.
didn't care for getting a trap stuck on his. So I'm sure if he reached in there and that thing came down on it, it would have.
Yeah,
Get your attention.
startled him for
Would have
sure.
tried
Yeah.
to pull it out. The tighter
Oh,
the
yeah.
lid would have probably gotten. The door would have gotten. So interesting. Yeah.
There was
Well-
one. We had a vacancy in Pulaski County about 3 years ago, and I took several calls on this little bear. It's kind of a real light color with a black face. Kind of looks like a raccoon, but it was a little male. Overnight, it was in Waynesville. Overnight, that bear went to Rolla.
What was that? Right?
And it's such a, I've got a picture of it. I'll show you after we're off the air, but overnight it went from Waynesville to Rolla, because the next afternoon in Rolla it got into everything. Wherever it went, it caused problems. And we ended up, the wildlife damage biologist, they've got a taser, and they
really?
actually it went up a tree. They tased it and shot it with some rubber 12 gauge slugs. Not non-lethal, you know,
Yeah.
and we've not heard from it since.
Sent him packing.
Yeah, sent him packing. But it just amazed me. It's such a unique bear. It was absolutely that bear, you know, to know that it went that far overnight
Yeah. I'll be.
from one town to the next. At least 20 miles.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Caught a right
Yeah.
on a truck.
I don't, I'd say it got along I-44 and just kept going.
Yep.
Go.
Yep. Just cruising along, loping.
Yeah,
looking
they can
around.
really cover some ground. You know, that one we had in 2007, it was down by Jad. When we trapped it, it was causing some problems. That was like 2 weeks after Max McDonald killed the bear that was in his.
Getting in his honey.
Yeah,
bees.
he had a big. Max McDonald had a big. If you don't know him,
Yeah.
had a big honeybee operation. Was at least 200 hives.
Yeah.
And this little bear just wreaked havoc. It was a little male, and Max ended up killing it. It was in his backyard. It was a legitimate kill. And then a couple weeks later, we had one just down towards Cedar Grove causing problems. So we trapped it. That bear had been tagged by the Arkansas Game and Fish in Searcy County, Arkansas.
Really.
Wow.
And then we trapped it, turned it loose on the east side of the county in a big tract of Forest Service. And then a year later, it was hit and killed by a car in Koshkonong, right on the Arkansas line.
Is that right?
Wow.
So they can really, really
Well,
travel.
he was headed back south for
He
the
was
family
headed back to
reunion or
Arkansas,
something.
yeah.
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 Huh.
And
something.
he was making tracks.
Yeah.
There's a male. Most of them are males that travel that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bears are really interesting. I think they're pretty. They're kind of a big raccoon. They can cause problems, but I'm always glad when someone tells me that they saw one and it ran off. You know, it didn't hang around.
That's the best thing.
Yeah.
Right.
They were afraid of, just human contact and.
Yeah. Things will work better the more they stay that way too. Yeah. Do you get involved in the feral hog? Not to change course, if you had something else you wanted to. I was going to ask if you get involved in the feral hog thing much.
Right.
We're lucky here in Dent County so far. We've got a few right on the eastern edge, a few down on the southern end, as I understand it, down on south of Gladden and down in kind of
Sligo.
Down in that Gladden area, and they got a few out at Sligo. Is that right? I wasn't aware of that. Okay, out of Sligo. I was thinking Cook Station, but around Sligo and on towards Iron County.
Maybe not quite. As far as I know, not quite as far north as Cook Station, but from Sligo toward Iron County.
Yeah. Iron
in
County,
that Crawford County corner.
Yeah.
But Iron County, it's kind of the epicenter of all the hog activity.
But, I had Kevin Kreider on here, I don't know what, Stan, a month or so ago maybe, and stuff. We talked about that a good bit, but do you get involved in that, or at least steer people the right direction if they...
I have helped trap. Right now we have several full-time trappers that we brought on, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture also has their trappers. So between all of that, I don't get involved in the trapping as much, but like we had talked about earlier, I'm a lot of times the first contact person when somebody does notice some hog damage or sees them. So I'll a lot of times refer them to those folks, or just get more information to see if it's good information. But I have helped trap back 2 or 3 years ago. I helped trap a lot, especially in Pulaski County.
Well, you came out to our farm out there on the east, around Stone Hill. Over the ridge from us, they've had several. I think I evidently must have had a lone hog kind of come over the ridge and visit for a few days, but then never showed up and never seen any sign since then. I understand they've trapped several in the Stone Hill community.
They have,
up and down in the valleys.
Trapping it's the most effective. There's you can kill a few by hunting. And I know it's for those who like to hunt. It's always it's kind of seems like a battle between us and the ones who like to hunt them. But trapping is by far the most effective way, because when you do hunt them, typically you're hunting them with dogs and you're dispersing them. When you got a group that somebody calls me and says we got a group that we're seeing 6 or 7. As long as they leave them alone, they're probably going to still hang around there. We can get a trapper in there, and there's a good method for trapping them as far as just getting them baited up to a spot before you even set the trap, and getting them acclimated to it, to where when they do activate the trap, you've got all of them.
Yeah, because they're quite smart. They are smart. Never sell a hog short for
they are
smart,
very, very smart.
Studying things. I've seen hogs sit there and look at something and study it and decide.
Yeah, all the trappers have got stories about watching a lone boar that maybe they've missed, maybe or just a sow or something that the piglets, they got the piglets, but she slipped out the edge of the trap once it started to drop. She was on the edge, and
then she's going to be caged.
Then they may never get her.
That'll be a deal where you about got to hunt the lone hog down and kill it.
Yeah, there was a Hampshire-looking boar in Pulaski County that we were trying to trap. We trapped several hogs from this particular trap. This boar was actually circling the trap. We got it on camera, and he would run off all the coons because we've got it baited with corn, soured corn, and the coons just flocked to it, and the deer and whatnot. He would run the deer and the coons off, but he would not get inside that trap.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's a drop trap. If you're not familiar and listening to what kind of trap it is, it's cattle panels, 3 or 4 of them in a circle, about 12, 13, 14 feet across, and they're suspended on an apparatus with a pipe in the middle, and it just when the hogs trip the trap, the whole thing falls. It's a drop trap. And boy, if they see that drop and they're not in there to get caught, they are educated.
Yep. That one time.
2 weeks that boar circled that trap before he finally ever got in it.
Is that right?
Every night. We'd rebait it every day.
Yeah. But he wasn't going to let the raccoons get in there and get any either, though.
he was jealous. He was greedy. He wasn't going to let them eat it, but he wouldn't go in it. And a lot of times the trappers have got to get out there with night vision and try to kill like a lone boar out at night.
Yeah. So again, if a
With a
person is having trouble with hog, because we've got a pretty broad audience that'll be listening to this. If a person is having trouble, if they think it's hog damage, give you a call as well.
Yeah, you can give Jason or I a call,
So
or you can call one of our regional offices or
or
Rolla
Call
office.
Kevin Kreider.
Or call Kevin.
Or call
Kreider
Kevin.
at Extension office.
Yep.
3196. Kevin will check it out and line up.
All the agencies are working on hogs.
Yeah.
It's a battle, but it's been effective. It's been a lot of work, but we have put a dent in them for sure. They are destructive.
Extremely.
If you're not knowledgeable about what a hog can do as far as damage to a field overnight, they can just trash a field,
Destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
I know a fellow I went out my boss, and they ruined his hay fields. He had to disc them down and tried to reseed them, and then try to keep them, and then had damage again.
Yep.
And I think finally just about gave up trying to hay it.
And they will eat, ground nesting bird eggs. I went and inspected a captive deer pen in Edgar Springs years ago, and they had it was like a 300-acre place where they sold hunts, and there was an area where they just had hogs. Well, all I was there for is to do an inventory on how many deer they had, wild deer, and because they had a permit to keep captive deer and to sell hunts. Well, in this particular 40-acre pinned-off section, I asked the owner, I said, well, how many deer are in this pen with the hogs? And he looked at me funny, and he said, there are no deer in that pen. He said, hogs have been in there for several years, just hogs. And he said, if a fawn hits the ground, it's going to get eaten by hogs.
Yeah.
He said, we throw our carcasses in there from hunts over the fence to the hogs, and they eat it.
Yep. They'll eat about anything.
They'll eat about anything. Yeah. Yeah. He looked. I remember the look on his face when I asked him how many deer were in there, and he's like, "No, there are no deer in there." He said, "I will guarantee you."
Yeah. Oh. Well,
Very good. Very good. Well, we thank you for
I enjoyed
some enlightening stories, but there are things out there when people do have an issue with a wild animal that they're not quite sure what to do with.
Yeah.
And especially if it's starting to damage their crop or maybe even attack some of their livestock, they need to deal with it. And the best way to do it is contact you guys.
Yep. If we can't do it, we'll get you someone who can.
Very good. Want to give those numbers for you and Jason again?
Yeah, my number is 573-308-6174, and Jason Midget is the other agent here. His number is 308-6173.
Can't miss it. Back-to-back numbers.
Yep.
Make it
Easy to remember.
Well, really, thank you for taking the time out, Dave.
Thanks,
I haven't
Dale.
seen you in
Thanks
a
for having me
while.
as a guest.
But,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Keeping the audience informed about different things. Sometimes we forget about it. Mitch James said we live in the country and our bug is our neighbor. Well, yeah, we got more than bugs in our neighbor now. We got all kinds of critters out there. But, there are some damages that can occur that if, just like we're talking about the black vulture, that now that
black-headed vulture.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, the black-headed vulture, not the red-headed vulture, not the turkey vulture. But when you hear all the ads on it, there's a reason that they're out there. There is some problems, obviously, with these birds. Not necessarily here, but there are some problems.
Yeah,
and they want to make
somewhere,
people
someplace.
aware that if you have a problem, that there is help out there. And I think that's the biggest thing you need to know. I think people sometimes just don't know who to turn to.
That's right.
That's true.
It really becomes a big deal because then you can't go on the internet necessarily and find out because they may not know it's a black-headed vulture or a red-headed vulture. They have no idea.
But you guys, if you get a call, you can steer them the right direction or call your local Farm Bureau office, and they can get you lined up to get help with this on this black-headed vulture issue thing. Yep. So very good.
Very
Hopefully we won't have any problems. I've had cattle all my life, and I've never encountered a problem. And I've been lucky. I've never actually encountered a problem. I mean, we got gobs of coyotes, and I know once in a while, I know several years ago, a neighbor, and it might have been even before you came, Dave, the Hedricks had a problem, and they thought they had a coyote actually killing young baby calves and things. And a lot of times people lose a calf and find a coyote and whatever and think the coyote killed it and things. Maybe you probably heard those. But at any rate, in this instance, they actually did find that they had an old coyote that had injured leg, or both legs maybe, as I recall. And one of your all's trappers came, and they actually did trap the old coyote that was. I mean, it actually was a coyote that was doing it. But otherwise, I've had, like I say, cattle, and been around cattle all my life. And knock on wood, I'm not going to say they don't, but knock on wood, so far I've never lost an animal. Had trouble with dogs.
It's typically 9 times out of 10,
cattle.
maybe even greater than that, it's a dog.
Yeah, you
It's
shoot
the neighbor's dogs.
two or three dogs,
Or
run
sometimes
together.
their own dogs.
Yeah,
I was out on a sheep. Well, the folks thought it was either some type of wildlife that killed their sheep. And as I was out there investigating it in the pen, their own dogs started running what sheep were still alive and nipping at their hind ends, and it was without a doubt their own dogs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That had to be disheartening.
Yeah. But typically that's the case.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most common calls that we're getting right now. And it sounds strange, me being a conservation agent, but most people think that it is wildlife causing the problem, but it's dog calls.
It's funny, over the years, I've watched a lot of coyotes go through where the herd of cows was at, and I noticed the coyotes seem to want to take a wide berth.
Yeah, I've seen cows. You've probably
and,
seen cows run off coyotes. Yep.
And stuff. But I've also noticed sometimes that cows would look up at a coyote and not even give it another glance and go back and not even pay any attention, but let a strange dog neighborhood go through, and now the cows would get all wound up and unhappy and stuff.
I read a research paper years ago about coyotes, and the guy writing the paper was saying, be careful about the coyote that you shoot on your place. If you've never had problems with it, they're very territorial. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like you said, that the cows, for some particular reason, didn't pay that coyote any attention. It just, goes on by. Well, that coyote may be not one that causes problems, but you kill that one,
right?
Something's going to replace it. That one may be a problematic coyote. Well, so something, I thought it was pretty interesting.
Well, after the neighbors had that one that actually had injured front legs, it always stuck in my mind that if I was going to shoot one, I want to be sure I can kill that thing and not just injure it and make a problem coyote out of one that otherwise
right, because he's
wasn't.
not going to be moving around too much if he's got a busted up leg.
You shoot his legs, one or two of his legs, cripple him up bad, and then you've created a problem.
Yeah, he's going to want an easy meal.
He's going to have to do whatever he can. So
don't we all?
So anyway. So, Dave, I do appreciate you coming in.
Thanks, Daryl.
Good visit.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Covered some ground. So, hope folks learned maybe a little bit. I sure did. And
I did too.
Stuff. Yep. So, we're never too old to learn, right?
No, there's always things you don't know.
Oh, I'm especially when it comes to wildlife, and especially when you're talking about the problems with damage. Some of our folks who have been on even longer than me that are like our wildlife damage guys and gals, they know a lot of tricks,
I'm sure.
Like the peanut butter and the aluminum foil trick on the electric fence.
That's pretty slick.
Yeah.
Got to remember that.
Yeah, I always like learning those tricks.
Just make sure you don't have any children that like peanut butter.
Oh, I could see some grandkids really get lit up. Yeah, better watch that deal.
Hey, look, peanut butter.
Yeah.
But,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. But anyway, again, thank you for your time. We really do appreciate it. And I know you said you had an issue you have to take care of this morning with a deer.
Yeah, I got a call to go on.
I appreciate that. So, Daryl, tell us a little bit about, obviously, a little wrap up on the markets at South Central Regional Stockyards.
Yeah, again, we had about 20 or about 1,200, 1,300 head this past week. A week ago, we had before that we had almost three. We had 2,800 and 2,812 head or 2,825 head, and that was mostly feeders. And couple of weeks ago they were a few dollars higher. This week it'd have been probably pretty much steady. But just to give you an idea of some of those prices, we're looking for this week. And again, it was a much lighter test and kind of hard to compare because some of our bigger runs of feeders have been. If you got to leave, Dave, that's fine. He said Dave's fixing to take his leave. Thanks again for coming in.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Dave
I got a
English
call.
with
I
the
need to
Conservation
go on.
Department.
No,
I do
yeah, go
appreciate
ahead. You
sharing
can
that
toss that in there if
information.
you want to, or take it with you. There you
Good
go.
seeing you. Yes, sir.
See you. Take
Yeah.
care. Good to see you, Dave.
So anyway, we had a lighter run. We were kind of emphasizing this special cow deal. We had a couple of herds of cows that we're going to sell, plus that outstanding set of bred heifers that I spoke of earlier. But on the feeder offering, we're still even with maybe a lighter tone to the feeder market, we're still in a very good feeder market, and we're very lucky at that. We're in a very good feeder market. We're also in a very good time when even the slaughter cows going to slaughter are bringing some prices that we hadn't seen for in the past years. So, but on the feeder market, just to give you some ideas, that's some of these 478 pound calves unweaned, bringing in the 250 range. 250 to 255, 6. And, you're still talking about $1,216 a head for some of those 470 pound calves right off the cows. But to give you an idea, then we also, here's some 516 pounders unweaned at 246. But go ahead and wean them, though. We're looking at some 560 pound steers. 567 pound steers that were weaned, bringing $2.61. Here's versus a 590 pound steer, unweaned at $2.45. So you're talking a 15, 16 cents a pound difference for calves, very near the same weight. Go on down, here's some 620 pound calves that were unweaned, $2.40 a pound. And but still $1,536 a head. Boy, a couple of years ago, you'd have just been flipping cartwheels to get $1,500 a head for some calves, the very best with everything done. But anyway, 620 pound calves at $2.40 a pound, $1,500 a head. But here's some even heavier, 650 pounds at $2.60 a pound. Now, there wasn't a note made, but I'll guarantee you those 650 pounders at $2.60 a pound have been weaned, had the vaccinations and some things, and you just will get paid if you're using quality genetics and have got calves that are in a good condition and so on. You can make yourself some money by giving some shots and get them weaned, get a good vaccination program in them. If you're going to do the vaccination program, I would emphasize one thing. They need at least one round of what's called the modified live vaccine, and that's kind of become more and more important as we go along. Most of the vaccines are what's called killed virus vaccines, but on the respiratory vaccines, you can get and use what's called the modified live, and it gives much better protection against those respiratory diseases if it's the modified live, and more buyers are, if they're going to pay the top price, they got to have been vaccinated with that. So anyway, so that kind of gives an idea, like I say, on those 650 pound calves, 260. A couple of weeks ago, we were looking at some of them calves. They were actually around 249 to 280. Again, here was some 279 that were value added just a couple of weeks ago. But again, these are on some bigger strings and some real good strings. This week's run was a lot more smaller bunches and a lot more groups of 3, 4, 5s and 7s, and just as we were really working on these bigger strings of cattle, frankly, just kind of been sold across the country. Move on to the feeder heifers, those medium and large number 1 heifers. Again, 526 pound heifers unweaned. You're still looking at $2, around $2.20, $2.25, $2.28 a pound. Here was some 605 pound heifers that are unweaned at $2.18 a pound. So, still awfully good prices. But to compare that, let's compare, I was mentioning about what you can do to add some value to these bulls. Some of these bull calves at 530 pounds. Here's a group, 530 pounds, and these were really some really good bull calves, $2.30 a pound. Well, you go back over here where we were looking at 560 pound calves at 240, 245, 250 a pound. So you know you can add 20 cents a pound right there on a 500 pound calf, $100, $125 a head just by getting a sharp knife out
Sure.
and going to work with it. And you know, some real advantage there. We'll go on then. The cow market would have been about steady. You know, we had a big run of cows, and a lot of these cows that ordinarily might have been going back home somewhere, first and second stage cows. The slaughter market's good enough, but a lot of these cows are going to slaughter. There's just not as much demand for some of these cows to go back. There's just not a lot of extra grass out there. So our slaughter prices are very good. We're looking at on these what we call the breaking cows, which will cut out about 75 to 80%. We had some high dressing, big high dressing cows, bringing $1.05, $1.06. Some of these weighing 1,400 pounds. You're talking $1,500, $1,550 a head for some of these cows here to go to slaughter, and a lot of them bringing 97. These big, just even average dressing cows, bringing 97 to $1.04. Your boning cows there that cut out about 80, 85%. We're looking at a range of 89 to on some of those weighing 1,300 pounds, around $1.05, $1.04, $1.05, and even on some of those smaller lean cows, we're looking cows in the 70, 72 or 3. That used to be your top price you'd get for a slaughter cow. Very low dressing cows will still bring in the low 70s to an average high dressing cow well up in the 90s, 90, 88, 89, 90, 95, $96. So the slaughter cow market continues to be very strong, and will be again this week. We're looking at slaughter bulls in this selling weigh bulls. Had a big old 2,130 pound bull, $1.21 a pound. That's $2,550 a head for some of these older big old bulls to go to slaughter. You know, if a person wants to improve their genetics, now's an awful good time to get rid of a big old bull that's not quite as good a genetic package as you would like to have, and you'll get half the price of what a real good young bull would run. It's a good time you can upgrade your herd. But again, going back on these bred cows, we had a few of these good bred cows, good to take home. They were selling in a range of $1,380 to $1,500, $1,600 a head for some of the 3, 4, 5, 8-year-old cows, weighing 1,010 to 1,300 at 1,380 pounds. But and then again, we had this outstanding set of bred heifers from right here at Lake Spring, bringing them $1,850 a head. So the market's still good on a real good one, and but just not as much demand for these cows to go back to the farms, because about everybody's fighting the grass and hay issue right now. And well, like I say, we're kind of pretty lucky here in Dent County to not be hurting too bad for it, but it's still June, long time till what we call the fall rains coming. So, but we're looking for a good run of cattle this week, probably 800 to 1,200 head of feeder cattle probably. The markets should be pretty good again. And
does anything change with the holiday coming on a Tuesday this year?
We won't be having a sale on Wednesday, July the 5th. Okay. They'll be shut down that week. So
I didn't know if that would. I thought it might affect the sale, but I didn't know for sure.
It's fixing to get to that. We'll have a good run of cattle this week. And again, I'm looking at, probably because of the dry weather, looking at a run of another couple of hundred head or more of cows. And then we'll have a good run of feeder calves. Be shut down the week of July the 4th, and then we'll be gearing up for some. We know there's been some yearlings, some calves weaned and held back and been running on some grass, and so we're looking at some special feeder sales starting the week after the 4th of July. Probably around the 12th will be an awfully good feeder sale if somebody's been sitting on some yearlings and the market's good, and the buyers are there wanting cattle on those feeders.
Very good. So if you have any questions, or if you'd like to get into the livestock business and maybe you just really don't know how, and we always talk about that, just like the information with the Department of Conservation. It's just, it may be on the internet. You may think you can go find it, but you know what? They don't really go into the detail that you need to know. You need somebody to come out, talk to you, look at your farm, tell you what you have. You can't get that off the internet. But you can get it with a phone call. Really easy.
Phone call, give a call. We'll come visit with you, or come up to the barn. I'd really encourage somebody getting in the cattle business. Come on up to the barn at South Central Regional Stockyards, Highway 42 West. Come right into Vienna, turn left on 42 like he's going to Lake of the Ozarks, South Central Stockyards. You can't miss it right there on the edge of Vienna. Turn left in the parking lot. The big
parking lot.
Vienna Argyle MFA is right there as well. But the folks there, Dave Patton or his sons, Ross or Bill, or I'll be happy to visit with you about the cattle market. And if you're going to get in the cattle business, at some point you're going to want to sell cattle, so you might as well come and see what kind of cattle you need to produce to be in the best position to make a few dollars, because that's what it's all about.
Sitting through a cattle auction, if you've never been to one, is an experience.
Sure.
And somebody said, well, it can't be any different than a regular auction. Oh,
yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
It is totally different. And I really encourage anybody, if you've never been to one and you are interested in looking into possibly getting into the cattle business, even if you're not quite sure you want to get into it, go to an auction. Just sit through a couple hours of it, if nothing else.
Come up the auction, watch some of the sale, go in.
Doesn't cost you anything to do
and we've
that.
got a great restaurant called The Market right there within the facility, and it's run by Tracy Patton Shiver. Dave Patton's daughter Tracy runs the restaurant, does a fantastic job, get a great meal, and come in and sit down and watch the sale, or get up there early, and one of the folks up there will be glad to show you around a little bit, and show you some different cattle that and why they would be worth some different values in the market and so on. Or give me a call. My number's, the sale barn number is 573-422-3305. That's the number of South Central Stockyards. Or you can call me. My cell number is 573-308-5415, 308-5415. I'll be happy to visit with you and do that. Again, we talk about this deal of giving shots and vaccinations. We have a StarVac program for value added. We'll supply the tags. They're free of charge. And we have a green tag program. If you're going to sell calves right off the cows, at least get them in and give them at least one round of shots, and they qualify then for the green tags in their ears, and that tells the buyers as soon as they come in that they've had at least one round of those shots. If you give them the boosters, we want to know that. We'll announce it. We want to know what the health and genetics of those cattle are. Want to know what bulls they're out of, and so on. And then they also have what's called the StarVac Plus, which is a red tag. And again, that's for home-raised calves, but that's for calves that have had one round of all the respiratory disease shots in the black leg, and then have also had a second round using the modified live that I talked about of all those vaccines and on the respiratory, and along with Pasturella and the 7-way black leg, and they have to be weaned at least 30 days and dehorned and so on. And the heifers need to be guaranteed open. That's one thing also a person can do is get their bulls in for a breeding period, but get them out then so that the young heifer calves don't end up getting bred. And if you can sell your heifer calves guaranteed open, then that's another set of buyers that will bid that otherwise aren't interested in buying heifers that might possibly be bred. That's not a good deal to run into. So a lot of different options. Be glad to visit with you about those. But again, a lot of good sales coming up. We'll have a good sale this week at South Central Stockyards, and looking for some good sales coming up again starting after the 4th of July.
Right. Just remember, no sale on July 5th.
And keep an ear tuned. We do have some folks up in that country that are talking about and looking at selling some cows and moving some cows. And I learned this morning there's actually a really outstanding another set of outstanding bred heifers that are going to probably be coming to market, and we'll be making those announcements, and I'll talk about those a little more next time.
Very good. So if you have any questions, again, call Daryl. Daryl, you want to give me your number one more time?
My number is, and I'm Daryl Skiles at South Central Regional Stockyards, and my number is 573-308-5415.
And if you can't get Daryl, you can call the stockyards themselves.
Call the barn at 573-422-3305, and if somebody's not there, they'll get back to you. But they can get you in contact with some of us that'll be glad to visit with you, or come to the farm, do an appraisal of your cattle, or if you're thinking about selling some, and visit with you about what's going on in the market and what you ought to do to try to make the most dollars. That's what it's all about.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for coming in and spending some time with us. Thank you for bringing Dave Ingram, our conservation agent here in Dent County.
Yeah, I was talking with Dave about a few things. I said, why don't you come on the radio and visit with us about some of this stuff?
Well, we used to have our conservation program, but unfortunately the day we were doing it, they started moving them to head to attend meetings those days, and so kind of fell by the wayside. But we really do appreciate our friends in the conservation department, and they're there for your safety. So if you got something going on with your livestock or your fields or even in your garden, if you see something that's unusual and you can't figure it out, a simple phone call can usually get you a good answer. So we'll be coming back here in another month, Daryl. It's going to be a new month.
It'll be July.
It'll be the. I
But
think it's
not
going to be
gonna-
July 7th, isn't it?
No, it'll be July.
I mean, July 14th, right.
So it'll be 3 weeks
Right.
this time. We won't have a sale on July the 5th.
Right.
So, but we will have a special feeder sale coming up on July the 12th.
Okay.
And we'll be back on the air here on the 14th with you. We'll update. But in the meantime, if somebody has got some cattle they're thinking about selling, there'll be we got a feeder sale this week, and then there'll be a back in getting in some of these special stocker and feeder sales starting on the 12th
Very good.
at South Central Regional Stockyards.
Bringing you this program. We do it every second and fourth Friday of the month, and we appreciate Daryl coming in and keeping us up to date on the markets and a special guest that he brings in as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Got some ideas for some here in the future, but we'll see how those pan out. And sometimes you may just have to put up with me for a half hour or so. So anyway, I do hope everyone enjoyed it. Hope they learned a little something. And until we're back here again, I hope everyone will be safe, happy, healthy. God bless, and enjoy the 4th of July. And God bless America.